When I first began writing this book in my mid-20s, during the mid-1980s, I was employed as a substitute teacher in several school districts. This role allowed me to work in a wide range of classrooms, grade levels, and school environments. Through these experiences, I gained first-hand insight into the everyday realities faced by classroom teachers. What became apparent to me was not simply a collection of isolated challenges, but a consistent pattern that raised serious concerns about the direction of public education. The issues I observed were not primarily related to curriculum standards, staffing levels, teacher preparation, or professional development, areas that are often cited in discussions about educational reform. Instead, the most troubling problems involve student behavior, peer interactions, and a noticeable lack of respect toward teachers and school staff. Disruptions, defiance, and disregard for authority were becoming normalized, creating classroom environments that were not conducive to learning. These were not occasional incidents, but recurring conditions that interfered with both instruction and the well-being of educators. As you listen and watch this video, it is important to understand that the observations and arguments presented here are grounded in experiences from the mid-1980s. The claims and conclusions have remained unchanged since they were first written. After reviewing the manuscript many years later, I made a deliberate decision to preserve the original text. I believed it was important to maintain the authenticity of those early observations rather than revise them through the lens of hindsight. Now, nearly 45 years later, readers are invited to consider whether these issues have diminished, be evolved, or intensified, and whether the concerns raised then still resonate today. In the decades since, countless articles, reports, and books have been published addressing the challenges facing public education. These works have increased public awareness and sparked important conversations about policy, funding, accountability, and reform. As a society, we have become more informed about what is happening within our schools. In many ways, this collective engagement reflects the fact that we are all educators and philosophers. Each of us holds beliefs about what education should accomplish, how children should be taught, and what values schools should promote. Despite this growing awareness, many proposed solutions remain superficial. Too often, reforms focus on short-term fixes that address symptoms rather than underlying causes. These band-aid approaches may produce temporary improvements, but they fail to address education as an interconnected system. To understand and resolve the challenges facing public education, we must examine the system from a macro perspective. Education does not exist in isolation. It is shaped by social, cultural, economic, and political forces. Genuine reform requires comprehensive, systemic thinking rather than fragmented, localized efforts. While change at the local and state levels is necessary, meaningful and lasting reform must also occur at the national level. A coordinated approach ensures consistency, equity, and accountability across all states. The federal government should play a central role in establishing clear standards, monitoring progress, and ensuring that reforms are implemented effectively. At the same time, each state must take responsibility for overseeing its educational systems and supporting school districts in meeting those standards. School districts and individual schools, in turn, must actively monitor classroom practices and encourage innovative, evidence-based approaches to teaching and learning. Accountability must be shared at every level of the system. Teachers and students need clear goals, well-defined expectations, and a shared understanding of what success looks like. When these elements are aligned, schools are better equipped to foster meaningful learning experiences. The responsibility for improving education does not rest solely with schools or government agencies. The general public must also play an active role in supporting educational reform. Education is a societal endeavor, and its success depends on collective involvement. Clear, realistic goals must be established so that parents, community members, and institutions understand their roles in the educational process. Families, businesses, faith-based organizations, and community groups all have the capacity to support schools in tangible and meaningful ways. Reform must begin with the student and extend outward to the school, district, state, and federal levels. When goals and expectations are clearly defined and shared, all stakeholders can work from a common framework. This shared understanding helps ensure that children not only know what they are expected to learn, but also understand the purpose and value of their education. Many social scientists argue that the challenges faced by schools reflect broader societal issues. Schools often mirror the values, behaviors, and expectations of the communities they serve. If this is true, then responsibility for education must extend beyond the classroom. Social institutions, including families, businesses, religious organizations, and governments, must work together to reinforce positive values, responsible behavior, and a commitment to learning. Attempting to change societal values and behaviors without a structured approach may be unrealistic. Education remains the most effective means of shaping thinking, character, and conduct. From early childhood through adulthood, education plays a central role in personal development and social responsibility. Children are our most valuable resource, and society has both an obligation and a moral responsibility to provide them with the tools, skills, and guidance necessary for a successful future. Rather than focusing exclusively on the problems within our schools, we must shift our attention toward solutions. This requires collaboration, commitment, and a willingness to examine education as a shared social responsibility. Schools should function not only as places of instruction, but as dynamic social institutions, spaces where students learn to think critically, interact respectfully, explore ideas, develop creativity, and prepare to contribute meaningfully to society. By strengthening our educational systems, we invest in the intellectual and moral foundation of both present and future generations.